Hey everybody, it's Don. On this episode of The Naturalist, I'm at a property in Clark County to look at habitat restoration efforts post-agricultural activities. So let's go.
Hi, I'm Steve Kottmeyer, and we're here on about 13 acres that my wife and I bought about 10 years ago. And since that time, we've been trying to make it better for wildlife. Now, when we started, we didn't really know what all that meant, but we've surely found out. And because this was a farm about 35 years ago, and it was let go for a long time. So that every invasive that you can name was here except a few. And we've been fighting a lot to get rid of those and plant some things that actually should be here. And the way I look at it, if we start at the bottom, if we take care of the caterpillars, and we have good native plants that the caterpillars use, as it turns out, so does everything else. So that's what we've been trying to do, and we've got some good success in places, and other places are a constant challenge, but we're still at it. So, and by the way, this is northwestern Clark County, right next to Miami County. Okay.
Behind Steve and me here is a stump of an elm tree. When I visited last year, this tree was partially alive, but it gave up the ghost this past year. So Steve, why don't you tell me about this tree and some of the properties you've noticed about it?
Well, I guess the first thing is it's extremely fast growing. It wasn't here when we moved in. We actually, our property is next door where the house is. We've been there for 33 years, and this tree wasn't here. And if you look at the growth rings on this thing, it's fairly young, but fairly good size.
Yeah, these are quite, that's half-inch or more growth rings there.
Yeah.
Yep.
But surprisingly, you would think something that grew that fast would be soft and not much to it. But when I cut it down, I thought my saw was dull. It didn't want to go through. I had to really try just to get it sawed down. And then when I cut it into chunks I thought I ought to be able to carry, well, I couldn't do it. I had to saw them into small chunks because it's very, very dense, and it's real heavy. I know those two things don't go together, but as far as the growth rate and the density of this thing, but it was really surprising. And one thing that I learned watching the Woodwright Shop, I don't know if anybody ever watched that, but it was one of my favorite shows, and he would give properties, he would tell about wood and the properties of wood. And elm was the kind of wood that they used for the old wooden wagon wheels. They used the elm for the hub, where the oak spokes would go in, and they used it because it's so hard to split. And if you ever tried to split elm, you probably regretted it, but you know how hard it is to split. So just a little note about this tree.
I can attest to that. As I was telling Steve earlier, I had a couple of Siberian elms in my property that had to be cut down, and I thought I'd save some for firewood and split it, and Steve is exactly correct. It was practically impossible to split. I think I knocked myself out trying to split the thing at some point. So, a really interesting conundrum. This incredible growth rate usually equates to a much softer, lighter wood, but in elms, they're still dense and hard to split. So as we've walked down the trail, I noticed in this part of your property that you've done a lot of tree culling. There's a lot of trees on the ground, a lot of stumps. Can you tell me what's gone on here?
Yeah, this is kind of probably 2 acres at least that I just call the jungle. It's almost more than I can even think about doing or fixing. But what we have here is a whole bunch of elm, and all the elm are dying. All the elm that we have are dying. Of course, all the ash are either dead or very, very close. And most of what you see here is elm and ash. Now, we do have a few good trees. There's a maple right there in front of you. There's a box elder over here, which I'm not really too thrilled about, that it's better than dead trees. And then lots of honeysuckle that I want to get to. But what I've been finding is that in the woods, I had the woods looking pretty good, and of course the honeysuckle just keeps coming back. Because we're surrounded by it. The neighboring property has never been able to do anything with their honeysuckle, so seeds are dropping all the time. I know that because I've been sitting out in the woods and in November, and big flocks of birds would come in, and they roosted in trees, and as soon as they roost, you can hear them. It sounds like rain, though it's not rain. And they're dropping.
Wear a hat.
They're dropping every bad seed that they've picked up, and you can see it in the woods. I must have hundreds of little honeysuckles coming up that I can pull right now. But then other places I've just not gotten to that I'm trying to get to now. But it's a struggle. Mm-hmm. But this here is mostly, like I said, it's ash and elm, and they're going to come down. There's some decent trees in there, but over time, and I was going to try to accelerate that by cutting more down, but I need to work other places. So over time, this will change drastically. Those elms will be gone, and other trees and other things will move in. I have not planted a lot of things in here, just a few, but I'm going to wait to, if I'm around long enough, I'm going to wait to see what happens and plant some other trees. And mostly I like to plant oaks. Mm-hmm. They're the best tree you can plant, best tree you can have. So that's what I like to put in.
Yeah. So. Yeah, this is a prime site where, as you said, with honeysuckle, if you don't watch that'll fill that whole area in really quickly, right? And so, yeah, you could watch what comes back in that you like and add in some things that you want to add as well. So, yeah. As we've walked into Steve's property, I've been noticing these signs that he has erected, and also this area. So, Steve, why don't you tell me a little bit about the nature of the signs and then what you've done with this particular spot?
Okay, the signs were interesting. Right after we bought the place, and we bought it in the winter, my son and some of the grandkids, we have 7 grandkids, had 6 at the time, but we came walking around, and as we walked around, I just kind of named some things. Like there's some rocks back in the vernal pool, and I said, Colleen, this can be Colleen Stonehenge. You know, and I just named things and didn't think anything of it. And I had already cleared this, or gotten rid of a whole bunch of stuff that was in here. This was a real mess. You might say it's a mess now, but it was more messy then. But anyway, I said, we'll call this Sydney's Prairie. Though it's hardly a prairie, but close enough. So, so that was, I thought, the end of it. Then my birthday came within like a month, and all the kids and grandkids came over for my birthday, and my older son said, hey, your birthday present's in the garage. So expecting a new car, I went out into the garage, and here were all these signs, 7 of them, just laying there, and he made them. He bought the drill, or he bought the router bits, and he bought the paint and wood and everything, and he made all the signs, naming, or with the names that I had just kind of come up with when we were out here. So you'll see these scattered through the woods, plus a few others that we added since then. Mm-hmm. So that's why the signs.
Yeah,
They're mostly
nice touch
for the grandkids.
Mm-hmm. So tell me a little bit more about what this area looked like and what you've done to it since.
Okay, well, this was there weren't many mature trees in here, but there were really big honeysuckles and lots of roses, and I went through and cut all that I could down, and I saved the help me here,
the
The red buds.
Red buds, sure. Yeah, the good things.
I can always remember names until I need them. But anyway, I saved all the red buds because they're a good native tree and I like them. So I saved those, but try to make this better. Now, I didn't get to mow it, and I don't mow it every year, but I like to mow it about every 2 years, or else things just get out of hand.
Sure.
And all the good natives come right back. So that's what I did in trying to. This is one of the few places, 2 or 3 places that I've done that with.
Yeah.
And then now trying to get back to maintain them when they absolutely have to have it.
Sure. Yeah, and then we have a pileated woodpecker in our background too. So
yeah, I heard that, and I thought maybe you picked that up.
Yeah. Oh, it will be on here. And so did you do any? Did you basically, in terms of the herbaceous vegetation, did you do any planting here, or just kind of letting what might have been here come back? I see goldenrods and such coming back.
I never planted a thing here. Just planted a couple oaks that I don't think are going to work. They were actually given to me by a lady, and I don't think they're going to grow. I have planted oaks all over throughout the woods and in the field, but they were all volunteer from the red oaks we have in our yard. For years I just mowed them down. I had nothing to do with them, but when we bought this, I transplanted at least 30 around, and probably gave away that many that people took, and we got some next door. So that's what I've done. But in here I really haven't planted really anything. And there's plenty coming back.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I see lots of good native herbs and so forth coming back in here.
And as far as goldenrod, we got enough goldenrod that we could populate the county. It's fairly aggressive.
Sure. Yeah.
But the thing we grow best is poison ivy.
Which, of course, is a native.
It's a native. My son's not too thrilled about it.
Yeah.
But I usually if something's native, I leave it go unless it's just getting crazy, like our cedars. They grow like weeds, and you just can't let them all grow. Or you're going to have nothing but cedars. Yeah. And in the field we have dogwoods. They call them non-flowering dogwoods, though they flower, and they spread by the roots. And they would take over that field in a couple years if I let it. So I have to mow around those patches at least every other year. But usually if it's native, I let it go.
When we visited Steve last year, I was really impressed by this particular site with this really nice vernal pond and trees growing out of it, and the woodlot, the forest surrounding it. Really beautiful spot. So Steve, why don't you tell me where we are and what we can see here?
Okay, like you, this is one of my favorite spots in the woods, and we have about 4.5 acres of what I'll call real woods that isn't jungle. And this is where I've worked a lot getting rid of the honeysuckle and other stuff. And I mentioned Colleen Stonehenge. Well, there's the sign, and and the reason for that is all these boulders are in here, all these rocks, and for a long time I thought whoever cleared the field just came through here and dumped them, and then I was corrected that these are actually glacial erratics. They were left here by the glacier, probably just where you see them now, and some of them are huge. But since knowing they're glacial erratics, I don't know, I like them more. And it's just neat to know.
Yeah, big chunks of granite that came from Canada with the glaciers.
Yeah, and they're rounded because they tumbled along the way. You don't see many with sharp edges. They're just all kind of rounded off. And the vernal pool is not very deep, so we don't have many amphibians in there. But as you can see, right in the middle of it, there's a really big hickory, and that's a shellbark hickory, and it's real close cousins to the shagbark. You can't hardly tell them apart just by looking, but the shellbark grow where it's wet. Well, you can't get much wetter than this. And they've also been expanding. We've got about 8 or 9 pretty big ones here. And they're expanding. The squirrels are taking them back to the north, and I found some yesterday just in the south end of our woods as I was clearing honeysuckle. And so the squirrels are populating the area with them. Now they grow at about the slowest rate of any tree there is, I think. I've been watching trees that they're alive, they're growing, but man, are they slow. So these have been here maybe 150 years. Don, you know better than me. But
yeah. With both shagbarks and shellbarks, if you see a big one, it's old. That's kind of what I tell people. It's got to be old to get to that size. Yeah.
And it surprised me that they were even here, really, because I thought that this had been timbered because we didn't have hardly any remaining red oaks, no beeches, and right 200 yards from here we had lots of oaks and beeches. Well, what I found out later was that a tornado came through here, I'm going to say probably 50 years ago, and it was so bad that they actually brought people out from town to help clean it up. So lots and lots of the big trees got taken down by the tornado. The hickories seem to hold on pretty good because they're way older than that.
Yeah.
But through here we got lots of different kinds of plants that, and I want to say I didn't know. I probably knew one wildflower when we bought this place. I don't remember what it would have been, but I didn't know many.
Yeah.
But thanks to mostly NATURALIST and a couple people on Facebook, in Facebook group, I now know a whole bunch of them, and I like to, once I know what they are, kind of research a little bit about them, and some of the plants are just super, super interesting if you get to the details. And we happen to be standing right next to a spot I found a couple years ago at Atlantic Comus. It's a hyacinth, wild hyacinth, and you can see I've got it marked with the little post here, so I don't trample it down, and that works. But I also think it's like a beacon for the deer. I think they see those and come eat whatever.
It's like a fast food sign for fast food. Yeah. The deer think this whole place is a salad bar, so they. Just when you think, hey man, I'm going to watch this, you come back and it's gone. Yeah. 2 days ago I saw where a lot of the white trilliums that I had planted, 6 of them were just gone. Yeah. Overnight. Yeah. Gone. That's a big challenge in restoration is deer. I mean, you can do anything you want to the plants, but if there are deer around, they kind of change the whole equation. They kind of. I always often say that sometimes deer are the ultimate managers because they're going to decide what they allow to grow or not, by what they eat or don't eat.
And one thing I found that I planted a whole lot of red oaks, little seedlings. They were a few months old when I planted them, and they volunteer in our front yard. There's a couple big red oaks in our front yard that I transplanted from up north about 32 years ago, and they've been producing acorns and get little oaks, and a whole bunch of them are in here. But if you plant an oak where there's deer, protect it. You got to protect it, because I don't know how they can do it, but they can find a bud on a single oak just out of nowhere. They'll find it and they'll eat it. So I do it the cheap way. I use chicken wire around it until it gets tall enough that it's that they can't reach it, and then I might protect the trunk so the bucks don't rub on it either.
Exactly.
But you have to protect them.
So in here we've also, I noticed we were talking earlier about ramps. You want to show us ramps and tell us your story about ramps?
Well, it's a little late.
It's a little late. Where'd those go?
Here's
oh, okay, yeah.
Here's one that you can see the leaves are just about gone, but it was big and bushy. And you see this right here is the seed or the flower stalk coming up. You can see one here, and it'll come up and it'll have this little bitty, you can't even hardly notice it, little ball of flowers. There's a name for it that I don't know.
Yeah.
But they'll bloom, and then the seeds will be there, and they're little BB-sized black seeds. And if you read about it, what's interesting is that ants will find those seeds, and each seed has a little bit of fat on it, fat and sugar kind of. I don't know the names like Don does.
Yeah, it's called an eliasome. Eliasome. Yeah.
And they'll take those seeds, the same as they do for several other of the plants that we have here. The ants will take those seeds, they'll take it to the nest, and they'll eat and feed the eliasome to their young. Then the rest of it they don't want, so they take it to their garbage pit that's down in underground. So the ants are taking that to what their garbage pit is, and you got to think, well, the garbage pit's probably full of all kinds of stuff that'll fertilize that, make it grow, and then they come up. Now, almost all of these that the ants plant, what I've read, is that it can take like 7 years or more before it actually comes up and flowers or produces any kind of plant above ground.
Yeah.
So just interesting to find, get a layer lower and read about the details of some of these
Absolutely.
things.
Yeah. Trillium dispersal is very similar. Trillium seeds, very similar.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we have, I just saw one I was going to point out, but we have more. There's some other plants. Of course, I can't come up with the name right now. Bloodroot. We have lots and lots of bloodroot, and they're increasing quickly. And what I found is they're planted the same way, I believe, but they only take like 2 or 3 years before they'll come up and actually bloom and produce seeds. So we have lots of those.
Yeah.
And this here is lowland brittle fern. Lots and lots of that stuff around.
Yeah, that's interesting. You don't see that one everywhere, so that's cool.
We've got a whole bunch.
Yeah, you certainly do here. Yeah.
And we have some rattlesnake fern that I'll show you up here.
Okay.
We'll walk right past it. But anyway,
yeah.
Want to keep going?
Yeah, let's do it. All right, we came upon another little opening here, and where Steve has done some restoration. So, Steve, what have you done here, and what'd you find?
Well, what I did here, this was a bigger mess than another little place we were looking at. It had mostly honeysuckle, but just big junk in it. And so I took my brush mower and my chainsaw and my loppers that came through and just took things down and mowed it. And as I mowed, I found a few trees like crab apples, which we don't really need any more crab apples, but there it is. But I ran into a cockspur hawthorn. And of course I didn't know what it was, but I knew it was a hawthorn, but the thorns on it are big, really long and curved, and that's where it gets its name, cockspur, like a rooster's spur on its leg. And so I saved it, and it's done really, really well, and it blooms, has a lot of blooms on it, gets a lot of berries. And then mostly what came in were the blackberries, which are fine. Then also planted this is a white oak. It's an alba that I got from a friend of mine as a little sapling, little seedling really. And so I planted it here, and you can see I put this protection around it, or it would not be left here. And that red oak came from our front yard. I dug that up, and it was a 2-month-old seedling, and put it there and protected it, and now it's big enough. I took the protection away, other than protecting the trunk a little bit.
Right.
But these are roughly the same age. The red oak is twice the size of the white oak. That's
a point I always make when I do these videos is about how white oaks grow more slowly than red oaks. And here's a really nice example. These are roughly the same age, and one's much larger, that's for sure. You can see it right in front of your eyes, that difference. All right, now as I understand it, at this spot you detected something particularly special. So why don't you show us what we have here, Steve?
Okay, well, this whole area was honeysuckle and a few other junky things, but I came through last year early and cut the honeysuckle and treated the stumps. And I like to do it that way. I don't like the foliar spray unless I have to. And here's one reason why. As I was cutting this honeysuckle, I pulled it away and I found that plant. Now it was further along, it was almost blooming, and I knew I had never seen anything like that, so I did my iNaturalist thing, and it came up and said it's a ragged fringed orchid. So and I read about that, and it's not endangered or even really rare, but it's not common. And if you look at iNaturalist and go to the map to see where observations are, this is the only one you'll find close to here.
Yeah,
that has been observed.
Yeah,
it's
been
the only
reported
one around, but it's the only one that's been observed, and it's going to get probably 18 inches tall, and it gets a stalk with orchid flowers coming out, and it's really pretty. It's not showy, but it's pretty. And so I marked this, and I actually will spray deer off on a few things back here that I don't want the deer to get, and this is one of them. Yeah, I'll come back, and after a big rain, I'll come back and spray it again. So I don't want the deer eating the only one I can find.
Sure, yeah.
I hope it's not the only one, because they say they do not self-fertilize very well. So anyway, it's not fun to cut honeysuckle, but it is fun to pull one away and find something underneath that you really want.
For sure, yeah. Come across those special things once in a while, and it's, again, being a keen observer is really what it takes. Anytime you walk in the woods, looking for the unique and different things sometimes, or just noticing that leads you to things like this sometimes. So just observing nature carefully is what it takes. As we walk through this section, Steve pointed out the winter creeper, Euonymus fortunii, that's carpeting the understory here. This plant, of course, this is a non-native. It's a real challenge to kill. It has kind of a waxy cuticle, and it basically requires herbicide treatment. You can't possibly pull all of this. And so Steve was indicating the challenges this represents and his desire to treat this stuff too. Here we have a recently blown down maple, looks like a sugar maple, and creating what's called a tip-up mound. Okay, with a mound where the roots have pulled up soil as the tree fell, and the pit that it creates as well. And this is a perfect example of what can happen. That pit can fill with water. That can end up being an important breeding ground for frogs or amphibians through time until it fills in or whatever happens with it. Then on top of that, the mound itself can become an important site for plants to get started. Obviously it pulls up some plants with it, but these little site, especially if it's a really large mound that's elevated, it can be above the noses of deer, and so you can get things that recruit up on the top of the mound there that would have trouble getting started in the presence of deer just on the understory itself. There's our classic tip-up mound and pit that it creates. This is just a nice spot in the middle of Steve's woods where you can really get a feeling for what the woods looks like and a lot of the work that Steve's done to restore this area. So let's just get a view of the woods. Birds are singing, wind's blowing. Steve's smiling. Really nice, really nice spring woods. And at this spot, Steve, you were telling me about a particular tree here you planted. So what's the story here?
Well, there's a few of these, but this is a red oak that I volunteered in the yard. And again, when it was just a seedling, I dug it up, brought it back, and planted it. That was at least 9 years ago. My granddaughter and I planted a few like this. And the ones that are in the shade, that hasn't grown more than 3 inches in 9 years. It leaves out, and it's actually leafed out very well this year. Usually it's just a couple leaves. But it's there, there's no sun on it, and it's holding on. It's waiting for these other big trees to die and give it some sun. If all of a sudden, let's say I cut a few trees down and gave it to the sun, it would shoot up like crazy.
Right.
I have an example over here of one that did that when the guy next door had his place logged. It looked like this. The year after he logged, it was growing like crazy.
Yeah.
And it still is.
Yeah. Yeah, that's incredible. I'm a compulsive tree ring counter. So if a tree falls or whatever and it's cut, I count the rings and just learn a lot, right? How old it is, its growth patterns, and so many trees have that pattern like you describe, and you can see it in the rings, right? Their first couple of decades, they might barely grow. The rings are really tight, and then suddenly you see an explosion in growth rate over the next couple of decades. And then it might slow down again, right? But if that tree there is over 10 years old probably, that's kind of going to be showing that pattern in its rings, in the future.
Now, you're not going to cut that one, but if you did, you'd need a microscope to see those rings. Those are tiny, tiny, tiny.
As we've walked, we've seen lots of different Trillium species, some of which Steve has facilitated and some of which have been here and come in on their own. And so we have one particular species here that's nice and still flowering. So what do we have here, Steve?
Well, this is a drooping Trillium, and from the top it looks real similar to the white Trillium, but what happens here is the bud and then the flower go underneath the leaves and bloom under there, and they're actually a little hard to find sometimes, but I don't know why they do that, why they evolved that way, but that's what they do. Called drooping Trillium. Now the other Trilliums we have a lot of are the toadshade Trilliums, little short things, Trillium sessile, and then we have the white Trilliums, some of which I transplanted, others volunteered, or maybe were here all along and I couldn't find them for the honeysuckle. But we have at least 3, maybe 4 types of Trilliums, if I can't remember the other one. But lots of red ones. The toadshades.
Toadshades, sure.
Lots of those.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have found in my own yard, where I have deer, suburban deer in the yard all the time, that of course deer will eat Trillium, but they don't seem to bother Trillium in my yard as much as other plants. So even though these things are certainly vulnerable to deer, I see you certainly have good populations of Trillium, and in my yard they seem to actually leave it alone, which is odd. I'm surprised by that, where they'll graze right near it. You can see that they've browsed plants right around patches of Trillium like this in our yard, but they'll often leave those alone, which surprises me.
Well, I wish they'd leave all of ours alone.
Yeah. Well, they leave some of yours alone at least.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
But I have 3 patches of white Trillium that I transplanted, and one had 6 of them in one day. A few days ago, I came back the next morning, they were all gone.
Oh, okay.
All
so they
eaten.
did get them.
Now, but the rest of them, which were 10 feet away, were fine.
Yeah. So they'll, I think, opportunistically browse them, but they don't seem in my yard to target them, I'd say. So,
well, if you want, I'll bring some of our deer down there.
Well, we have plenty of those. All right. Just a quick shot of a rattlesnake fern that's emerging here. I see a few others nearby. A nice spring addition to the understory here. Speaking of Trilliums, here's a nice little patch Steve has roped off here of Trillium grandiflorum, excuse me, large flowered Trillium. Very nice. And very appropriately near Emily's white Trillium patch.
Now, Emily is our youngest granddaughter, and she needed a sign. She was the only one that didn't have one because she was born after most of the signs, so she got this one.
Perfect. Well, I'm ostensibly in the trillium patch, but there's another special plant here, Steve. So what do we have in this spot?
Well, this is a putty root orchid, and it's not quite open yet, but this is maybe my favorite plant. And my history is that I had no idea what these were, but in the middle of winter, I'm seeing these leaves, one leaf per plant. These leaf would come up, of course, in the winter it was very green and kind of up a little bit. And
it has a crinkly appearance.
Yeah, and it's got those longitudinal stripes that just, so I'm seeing these things and I go, had no idea what they were. So I put a picture on a Facebook page and asked what it was. And almost instantly a lady came back and told me it's putty root orchid. So since then, or really right away, I Googled it and found all I could about it, and it's about my favorite plant back here just because of the way it grows. It sends up one leaf per plant, and that's all the leaves it's ever going to get. And as the leaf dies away, starting about a week or two ago, it'll send up a flower stalk, and that's what you see there. And I wish it was more open at this point, but that flower stalk will come up and have it'll bloom and get little seeds on it. And I believe, Don, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think these seeds blow around. I don't think they're planted by ants or anything. But once it's like normal, if you see something, once you see it, you start seeing it everywhere. Well, I found like 6 or 7 decent patches of these in the woods, and I just like the plant because of the way it grows.
Yeah, very unique life history. A couple minutes ago I was mentioning to Steve that when people see anything with spines or thorns on it, they get mad at it. But this is a good native that's nice and spiny. So tell me what this is, Steve, and what you've done to try to facilitate its expansion.
Okay, well, I found this, I'm going to say 4 years ago, just walking or riding through here, and I found that, didn't know what it was, of course. So I asked NATURALIST, like I normally do, and said spiny gooseberry. Well, I knew what gooseberries were, but I didn't know there was a spiny version. So I read a little bit more about it and how it can propagate. So what happens is a limb can come out and go down and touch the ground, and it'll take root, kind of like so many other plants do. So since I wanted this one, what I did is I would bring a branch out and clear away down to bare dirt, and then put a little log or something over it so I get another plant on the other side. And that's really part of the same plant, but in a couple years you can treat that as an individual, dig it up and transplant it anywhere. So I've done that around this plant several places. I don't really know if I'm going to dig more up, but I'm making it expand probably twice as quick as it would.
Yeah.
But I have transplanted one of those things I dug up just over here west of us, 50 yards, and it's thriving, and I've done the same thing there.
Yeah.
And trying to make it expand.
Yeah.
So just one of those things that I like. Now, I've never gotten a berry off of it.
Yeah.
But someday, maybe.
Yeah. Okay, very cool. Well, our next stop is Grandma's pawpaw patch. So Steve, let's take a look at this site, and I know you've done some special things with your pawpaws here. Show me what you have.
Okay, well, yeah, Grandma's pawpaw patch. Grandma didn't have a sign, so I asked my son, hey, make a sign for Grandma. And this, now the thing is, she doesn't like pawpaws, so, but, oh well, that's how it goes. So yeah, this is one of 3 small pawpaw patches that we have. Now, they're expanding. You can see they go 20 yards either way. They grow from the roots or rhizomes or whatever. I always get that wrong, but they'll expand. And the thing about that is a patch of pawpaws can really be one organism. And that's no big deal, except that they don't self-pollinate very well. I read a study out of UK that said they will self-pollinate, but not often. So the fact that they can't self-pollinate, if this is one organism, all grown from the same mother tree, these won't pollinate the others in the patch very well.
Right.
So now I thought, well, why don't I just graft some from another patch? And it just has to be from another seed somewhere. So I got some scions cut from a guy, or I went up to St. Paris where a guy's got 1 million pawpaws and cut some scions, and I grafted them like you would apples. None of them worked. Then I thought, well, maybe I ought to read how this is supposed to happen. So I read that with pawpaws, you don't graft it while the whole tree is dormant. You graft these as these leaves start coming out. Then graft the scion that you collected earlier onto it. And I grafted 10 here, and I think 8 of them took. And my thinking behind that was, if I can graft onto the leader, now you'll see these don't have a very predictable leader, but some of them I guessed right. If you graft that other genetic background, whatever, scion onto the tree, everything above that is going to be from a different genetic pool, and it will pollinate the other trees. Now, I've done it. I've had many blooms above the graft now over the last few years. I did this probably 7 years ago. I can't say for sure that it improved it because I don't have a way to study it.
Yeah.
Because there's so many things that affect pawpaws. Like recently, before the frost, I had a bunch of little pawpaws coming on. Now they're gone. I think there's a bug. It's the pawpaw peduncle borer, and it bores into the stem of the buds in the brand new fruit, and they'll drop. And I think that's what happened. It was well before the frost. Yeah. So I can't. So many things, frost and freezes and the bugs all affect it. So I can't say. I can't compare and say, well, this helped. But in my mind, it has to. Okay? It's from a different population, and they're really going. So and the other day I was sitting right over there and watching zebra swallowtails fly around. And pawpaws are the only tree that they'll lay their eggs on. The only thing that their caterpillars will eat. So I was watching them fly around, and I watched one smaller one fly around to leaf, and I just pegged one leaf so I could go over and take a picture. Sure enough, underneath it there was one egg. So I've never done that before. That's kind of cool. And you can see here a lot of volunteers coming up. Now I won't let all of those go just because they can get too crowded. And I've actually thinned this one other time, but I'll get rid of some of those. But here's an example of a pawpaw that I did graft, and I know that because I marked them all with the blue tape. And I believe last year we could still see, and I'm pretty sure the graft was right here.
It kind of looks like there's some scarring there or something.
So this graft not only took, but I picked the right leader. And it's had many blooms, and last year had a few pawpaws.
It has them this year so far too. I see some up there developing. Pretty small at this point, but So
I have, and a few of the trees, well, I I grafted it on what I thought may become the leader, and well, I missed it.
Yeah.
So now I just have a branch, which is okay.
Yeah, yeah.
It gets buds on it.
Yeah.
But here's another good one here that same thing, grafted it, and I've had buds above that. So again, those can pollinate the rest of this pawpaw patch.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So Steve just pointed out to me that he had marked a little unknown here, hoping that I could identify it for him, which looked a little different than what else he's seen around here. And indeed, this is different. This is our native euonymus. This is called wahoo commonly. So this is a good native euonymus alternative to burning bush, the non-native invasive ornamental. But when you see one of these in your woods, that's a good thing. So we've emerged from the woods out into prairie land, meadowland. Tell me what you're doing out here, Steve.
Okay, well, this is, we're just yards, like 40 yards south of our house. And I've had wildflowers planted in this patch. And what you can see right now is some golden Alexanders, the yellow ones. There's another patch up here, and it'll have all kinds of stuff in it when it all comes up. Golden Alexanders right now. But this patch was just grass. So last year I killed the grass best I could, and then I threw seeds that I collected from my other plants, and bought a few silphiums. And why silphiums? Because I like them. They're big, and once they get going, they're maybe hard to contain, but that's okay.
Yeah.
So you can see here there's cup plants, which is the silphium, and those were really transplanted from a bed that I made over a few yards to the west. I threw a whole bunch of cup seeds in there, thinking that the germination rate would be really low. It wasn't. I think every one of them grew, so I got a whole bunch. So I've transplanted them here, and other people have gotten some. And then there's some, what's marked up here with the flags. There's actually 7 of them. Those are 9 bark. Again, a good native plant.
Yeah.
And the way I came upon those is we had planted winged euonymus. And I can't even remember what do we call that?
Burning bush?
Burning bush.
Yeah, yeah.
We had planting burning bush around our well pump, and it was real nice. But then I read about burning bush and how bad it is. So I cut them all down, and I read and thought, well, the 9 bark would be the best thing to put there. So I did, and it's coming in, and it'll hide the well pump. But I also scattered a few others around. And this here, you got to be saying, what the heck they got that marked for? Well, what this is a tall ironweed.
Yeah.
Now, a week ago, iNaturalist wouldn't even call it that. It wanted to say it was teasel.
Oh yeah,
and
no.
It looks like it.
Yeah.
But this volunteered here when it was still a lawn about 2 years ago, and got real tall. And I thought, I'm going to keep that because I really like them. They're a color I can see.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I kept it, but the following year, my wife was cutting grass, and she cut it down when it was about 1 foot tall. So last year, it still grew, and it actually got bushier and bloomier, but wasn't as tall. This year, it's expanded and come out by the roots very slowly. But there's at least 4, if not 5 plants in this right here. I'm going to let them all go and see what happens. But last year it was taller than me, actually, maybe as tall as you, Don.
Yeah.
And just a beautiful plant, like a specimen plant.
Yeah.
It was perfect.
Oh yeah, that's beautiful color to the flowers.
In here I threw a whole bunch of every kind of silphium I could find, and some other things that I collected from the field out here. And just want to see what's coming in. Of course, what comes in best are the things you don't want.
Of course,
that you have to get rid of, but I'll do that.
Now, how did you get rid of the grass in the first place, the lawn grass?
Am I allowed to tell you?
Sure, yeah.
I use Roundup.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. I know people hate that, but there's not enough cardboard in the world to do what I need to do.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think Roundup is the safest alternative, as long as you use it like you're supposed to. Don't do it when there's any wind, and mix it right, and so it worked, but it didn't take the seeds out around, so
right.
so of course it comes back.
Sure.
But it's way less.
Yeah. So as we've walked along the path here, Steve was pointing out to me some elderberries that he's planted. We'll probably see more of those. And you know, when you come across roses, especially in brushy, overgrown areas, you might assume they're multiflora rose, but Steve has something different here. What's this one, Steve?
Well, this is a climbing prairie rose, or one of the prairie roses. There's a few different species that to me all look alike, but the way you can tell the difference easily is look at how many leaves it has, how many leaflets it has, where the other rose, the multiflora rose, has like 7 leaves, leaflets. This has 3. And I found a big patch up in the field here, probably 5 years ago, and you know, I'm ready to cut it down. Here's a thorny rose bush, and then I did my iNaturalist thing and found out, ooh, don't cut that one down. And it blooms at a different time than the other rose, and it's very pretty.
Yeah.
It's unruly. You don't want to run through it. It's got the thorns that they're at least straight. These thorns are straight, where the multiflora rose has the hooks.
Yeah, yeah.
Like you walk into a multiflora rose, don't keep going forward.
You're caught.
Back up, back up, because they want to hold you there. They're curved. These are generally straighter, and
then this will have pink or red blossoms.
I'm not great with colors, but it'll have, I think, pink.
Pink, yeah, right. Where multiflora has white blossoms.
Yeah.
Right. Very cool.
And I said I'm not great with color. I'm colorblind. That's what I.
Okay.
Now that doesn't mean I can't see any colors, but red and green I can't distinguish.
Sure. Yep.
But these are real pretty when they bloom.
Yeah. We're starting to enter a larger open area that Steve would like to keep open, but it keeps getting encroached upon by this shrub, small tree over here. This is gray dogwood, and it's a native plant. It's a good plant generally, but it's pretty aggressive. It will root sprout, and so as Steve was describing, you know, he had mown in here to kind of keep this down, but you see the young saplings entering or popping up here throughout this little opening. Here's also the elderberry that we talked about briefly. These are a couple that Steve had. Here's one that's about to flower. He had a larger one back where we started. There's a couple of those in here as well. This kind of does indicate why, if you try to have a meadow or a prairie, you do have to manage it. You can't just let it go, because things will constantly try to colonize it, especially the woody plants. You've got to keep them out if you want it to remain a meadow or a prairie. So Steve is sort of managing this area as a meadow, prairie, perhaps prairie savanna type of habitat, which would include some trees, widely spaced, including this tree here, Steve. So tell me the story about this tree and some of the others that you have around here.
Okay, well, this is a northern red oak, and it was one of the volunteers that I dug up out of our yard, and I'm gonna say it was like 6 years ago. I dug up many, but I planted 3 right here all together, surrounded them with the chicken wire. And what I do, I'll plant 2 or 3 and then wait to see which one wins. And then I'll see which one is doing the best, and then I'll cut the other 2 down. Well, in this case, the other 2 were, say, 1.5 feet high. This was 3 feet high, and it stayed like that. However tall the other ones were getting, this one would be at least twice as tall. So, of course, I cut the other 2 down, and this one has just done amazing. I was going to try to make a cultivar of fast-growing oak, I would try this one. Now, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
But,
Now, how old do you think that tree is right there?
well, again, when I planted it, it was a seedling. So I'm going to say, I'll say 7.
7.
But
yeah.
not more than that.
That's incredible. Yeah.
And if you look at this one, it was planted at the same time, and it was planted same way
Yeah.
from one of the seedlings that volunteered. And then there's one down here that we actually bought. We bought 6 of them from a local nursery, and it's way older. That has been there probably the full 10 years we've been here. And this one is real close to as big as that one. Now that one was balled and burlapped when we planted it. But 2 things, if you read any of Talamy's books, if you read The Nature of Oaks, he'll tell you, if you're going to plant oaks, start with an acorn. Don't buy balled and burlapped. Sorry, nursery people. But and I've proven that to myself, that start with an acorn or acorns. Choose the best ones as they sprout and plant them where they should be. And forget the balled and burlap, because they'll come to you with any taproot gone. These are all intact, and they're like they should be. And they grow very, very well. And oak trees have a very strong central taproot. When they come out of the acorn, they really drive that root straight down deep initially. And again, like Steve said, when you have the balled and burlap, they're grown like that initially, but then they have to be chopped out of the soil and put into the burlap or into a pot, if you get them that way, where all that is disturbed and chopped. Now, red oaks, they'll send the root down, but not quite like a white oak. The white oak, and they're interesting. The difference is interesting too. And I learned this by watching David Attenborough, who, by the way, is 100 today.
That's right.
And he had an episode on, and they were talking about squirrels gathering acorns, and they showed squirrels gathering white oaks and red oak acorns. And the white oak, if they found one, they would examine it, know it was a white oak, and eat it right away. Because the white oak will sprout that year.
That's right.
If it drops in the fall, it's going to sprout, and you don't see anything above ground, but the root goes way deep. The red oak, they don't sprout to the next year, so the squirrels will bury them and come back before they sprout.
Right.
And I never knew that, but it was interesting to me. But yeah, I tried to transplant some white oaks, and I was digging forever. I never got down to the end of the taproots. They stayed where they were.
And that also relates, or it's correlated with their tannin contents as well. So white oaks have a lot less tannin than red oaks, because red oaks have to last longer. And you know, until by the time they start growing, that tannin has decomposed to some extent. But that's helped them get through that dormant period. It gives them antimicrobial properties and such, so they can get through that dormant period. But they're still much more astringent. If you were to go to eat them, you can eat acorns actually, and white oaks are the ones that you generally would eat because they have a lower tannin content than red oaks.
Now, I've not eaten acorns, but I know the Native Americans, they managed oak forests so they could harvest the acorns.
Absolutely.
They'd mash them up and make something.
Flour and such. Behind me, Steve pointed out a grove of black locusts, which are just getting past their flowering stage. There's still open flowers up there, but they've been doing it for a week or so. And black locusts, again, are a native tree. They can be kind of aggressive, I guess you could say. They're a good native tree, and those blossoms attract a lot of pollinators, a lot of bees, and make good honey from those flowers. Now, moreover, the wood itself is very useful in making things like fence posts and rails. I remember my dad and I making a pole to hold up a basketball hoop, when I was a kid, out of a black locust trunk. to hold up my first basketball hoop. And of course, I never quit playing since. So there's a nice stand of black locusts. And again, this is a nitrogen fixing tree, so it has symbiotic relationships with bacteria in the roots that help it fix atmospheric nitrogen. And so these are often used in restoration plantings on purpose to get, you know, nitrogen back into the soil. So where I grew up in Pennsylvania, this kind of tree was used in strip mine reclamation a lot, for example, because of that nitrogen fixing feature.
One thing to remember about these, if you cut them down, they grow from the roots. So if you cut one down, it's probably coming from a grove. And if you want to keep that grove, don't poison that tree. Cut it down, but don't poison the stump, because it will travel. And you could end up losing some of your other black locusts that you want.
Right, that are connected still below ground. Yep. Here's a little patch that I see is kind of cordoned off a little bit. What's special about this spot, Steve?
Several years ago, I planted some wildflower seeds here, and I tried to kill all the grass and weeds that were already here, and I didn't do it very well because I'm impatient. And but I threw the seeds in there anyway, and then I didn't see anything but a couple of black-eyed Susans coming up. But then last year I saw these other things that I didn't know what they were, and those are brushy St. John's wort, and there's like 6 or 7 patches in here. So I looked at my original seed packet, and sure enough, they were in that seed packet, and now they're coming up and spreading pretty well. So they're a good native plant. They're supposed to get, I don't know, 4 feet high and bloom like crazy and attract pollinators. And also in that same mix were these mints. Now mint is kind of a neat little thing. For one, the stems are square. They're decidedly square. You can feel it. And if you clip off a leaf and just smell it, crush it up and smell it, there's no doubt it's a mint.
Yeah.
And then got these, which are golden Alexanders. And to tell you the truth, I don't know if they were in the original pack or not, but they're seeming to spread from others that I got. I think the birds must like them or something and spread them around. And they're a good native plant, so there they are.
Yep.
And then here we have some Monarda bee balm, and I again don't know if it was in the original, but I do have several patches of those around that I did not plant.
And these are in the mint family too, with the square stems, and they have a milder aroma, but a bit of one still. Yep.
And they call it bee balm for a good reason. When they're blooming nice, every kind of bee and wasp and clear wing hummingbird moths, which are really cool if you've never seen them.
Sure.
And the first time I saw them, I walked up and I thought I had a whole bunch of great big bumblebees on, and I got close and that's no bumblebee. So I took a picture. Took a while, but took a picture, found out what it was, and they'll have a lot of those on them. And they're all just interesting.
Yeah. Yep. All right, so we'll wind our way back to near where we started and probably conclude our episode. I noticed that Steve has a lot of birdhouses around that host various species throughout the year, and here's one that has a little special treat for us. What do we have, Steve?
These are probably week-old bluebirds, and we've got another nest out front that's probably only 3 days old today, I would say.
Yeah.
But of course, when you put up bluebird boxes, you hope to get bluebirds, but you'll get not all kinds, but you get wrens, which we saw today, and you'll get house sparrows, which they get evicted because they're invasive, very invasive, and they will actually kill the bluebirds in the box. I've opened up a box before, and what I see is a mass of blue stuff.
Yeah.
It used to be a bluebird,
Yeah.
and the sparrows did that.
Yeah.
So sparrows get evicted, but these tree swallows, wrens, the other things that get in here, they stay put.
They get to stay. Good.
Yeah.
As we prepare to conclude the episode, Steve wanted to share a little bit of information about this plaque. Steve, what's this?
Well, this sign was made for me by a friend, and he actually wood burned it into cedar, And as it kind of got faded, my granddaughter painted it black again, and it's lasted a long time. But what this is my favorite quote from a Sand County Almanac, written by Aldo Leopold, which probably all of you have heard about. If you haven't, go to Amazon and buy a Sand County Almanac and then read it. This is my favorite quote. Most people, if they quote, it's going to be about the land ethic, and that's fine. I like this because it tells a story. Mm-hmm. And it's why I'm going to plant 1 million silphiums here. Mm-hmm. If I could find a buffalo, I'd put it there too, but I probably won't.
Right.
So anyway, that's the story.
All right, and with that, I think we'll conclude the episode. I'd like to thank Steve Kottmeyer for taking me on a tour of his property. He's done tremendous work here to restore wildlife back to a property with an agricultural legacy, and it's really great to see. So with that, we'll sign off for this week. Bye-bye.